15th Town Board meeting. Please rise for the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call.
Jeff Renahan, First Ward.
Bill Carlos, Second Ward.
Jessica Lopez, Third Ward.
Matthew Wooliver, Fifth Ward.
Ann Schurshin, Sixth Ward.
Felicia Salvatore, Town Clerk.
Jim Nelson, Attorney for the Town.
John Basie, Town Supervisor. On tonight's agenda, the first thing we have is a public hearing for the Raymond Avenue School Project. I'd like to make a motion to open that public hearing.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Is there anybody here to talk on Doreen on the Raymond Avenue project?
Since this is being treated as a new public hearing, I would like to repeat several of the comments I made last time, including the one where I have an objection to the fact that it says plus or minus 181 apartments. I know that when the supervisor asked the director of municipal development about it once before, he said, well, they're not projecting any big swing in the numbers, but I still think that just saying plus or minus is not a good thing. And furthermore, the legal notice for the planning board public hearing on this project that was scheduled for tomorrow night in the Poughkeepsie Journal, it says plus 181 apartments. So I don't know why that is, but again, I think it's leaving it too open-ended to say that there is plus or minus. Also, the definition of anchor project that you're adding, I think it should be better defined. Definition that you're adding says it's a project comprised of a mix of uses that may include but not limited to commercial, residential, and institutional uses. But then farther down under area and bulk regulations, it says an anchor project shall include a mix of residential and non-residential uses as determined by the planning board. So to me, it seems like you're allowing the planning board to actually define what an anchor project is. And again, I think there's a little bit of, in my mind, confusion there. Also, under permitted uses, number 11, I think there's just a typo there. It lists an E-code web address when it really should be probably just laundries and laundromats. And then the last thing it's unclear to me why under permitted uses, one of the uses is inns. And it says that it needs to be subject to Town Code 21077, which is the definition and regulations for an inn. But it says, except for sections A, B, and H of that code. So if they have to adhere to 21077 for inns, I'm not sure why you're exempting those three, A, B, and H. And when I looked at other places where inns are allowed, like the Salt Point Center, the South Hill Center, none of those say except for section A, B, and H. So I don't know why it should be any different for this one than the other ones. So those are my comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Doreen. Anybody else like to discuss this public hearing? If not, make a motion to...
Did you raise your hand? Me? Oh, okay, sorry. No. That's what you were saying.
Nobody else like to make a motion to adjourn this public hearing on February 21st?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
That's the end of our public hearings for tonight. Number 2 is authorize supervisor to sign agreement with the Washington Hollow Rod and Gun Club for the police department, agreement with the Dutchess County for dial ride, employment assistance program with Mid-Hudson Regional Hospital, Lizette Ortiz, zoning administrator, town clerk to advertise a mowing bid for the parks and for landfill. Gary Bowitz for legal counsel for Schatz property, Craig Wallace, code enforcement attorney, David Wise, labor law attorney, surplus equipment auction, appoint planning board members Ron Diaz, Richard Harris, Kevin Etz, Peter Sotero, appoint Jeff Renahan to tri-municipal. And that's it. I'd like to make a motion to suspend the rules for any comment on items on the agenda.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Doreen?
So I have a question about agenda item number 7 for the hiring of a lawyer for the Schatz properties. So what's prompting this? Because, well, maybe you can tell me what's prompting it.
What's prompted is we had a call a few weeks ago, maybe a month ago now, of drums on the property. So with that, we sent out our code enforcement officer who addressed it, notified the DEC. So we're going out there, we're meeting with the DEC and the EPA on our next step next week. And we thought it was in our best effort with the county and the city as all three partners that have a piece of that property. The city owns a part of it and the county is involved in this property due to the fact that it's behind on taxes. So we're all meeting with those groups next week. And we thought to have the proper legal counsel to guide us through this would help.
Okay, so are these new drums that appeared?
Yes, because Doreen, to the best of my knowledge, it was cleaned up years ago. And Lenny was out there doing a fire inspection. Somebody told him about the drums. So Wayne went out and we notified the DEC that these are new drums.
Okay, because, all right, well, that would explain it because, periodically I check the DEC's environmental remediation database and I know that there wasn't anything open for Schatz. And so just before I came, I went to just to verify that. And this was, it says, that by March of 2011, all the containerized waste were shipped off site, and that there was no additional action planned by the EPA, and that the site had been previously remediated. So, so somebody just decided to do some new dumping.
Yeah, so that we notified them and brought them in to help us through this process.
Okay.
Now they want to talk to us.
And even though they don't know how those drums got there, the town and the county are responsible? Is that?
Not necessarily responsible. We're going next week to sit down and discuss with them how to remediate this, whether DEC is going to help us. We don't know where they came from. So it's not that we're responsible. It's more of how do we stop it from happening again, I think is probably the avenue we're going to be going towards.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Anybody else have a discussion on any agenda items? If not, a motion to resume the rules?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Mr. Renahan.
Be it resolved that the town board of the town of Poughkeepsie does hereby authorize the supervisor to execute a license agreement with Washington Hollow Rod and Gun Club, Inc., for the use by the town of Poughkeepsie Police Department for target practice for an annual fee of $2,300, which agreement shall be in effect from January 2nd, 2018 through December 31st, 2018. So moved.
Second.
Motion second. Any questions on this one? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0.
3, be it resolved, the town board of the town of Poughkeepsie does hereby authorize supervisor to execute the 2018 Dial-A-Ride extension and amendment agreement with the County of Dutchess, which agreement provides for joint service transportation system for the general public with payments made by the town not to exceed $69,000. So moved.
Second.
Motion second. Any questions on this one? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0.
Resolution number 4, be it resolved, the town board of the town of Poughkeepsie does hereby authorize the supervisor to execute the renewal agreement for the employee assistance program by and between the town of Poughkeepsie and the workplace of Mid-Hudson Regional Hospital of Westchester Medical Center for 2018, a copy of which is attached. So moved.
Second.
Motion second. Any questions on this one? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes 6-0.
Resolution 5, be it resolved that the town board of the town of Poughkeepsie does hereby appoint Lisette Ortiz to the position of zoning administrator with the town of Poughkeepsie at a salary of $50,000, which appointment is a provisional appointment pending results of the civil service examination and also subject to a probationary period of not less than 8 nor more than 26 weeks per civil service law, effective January 29, 2018. And be it further resolved that the supervisor or his designee is authorized to execute and file all documentation required by the Dutchess County Department of Human Resources in connection with its appointment. So moved.
Second.
Motion is second. Any questions on this one?
Yeah, I've had a chance to meet with Ms. Ortiz along with Jeff and you, and I was very impressed with her, and I think she's going to be a really good fit. And this is an important position. I'm glad to see it's being filled.
It's very important, and it's well behind. It should have been filled a while ago. It's desperately needed. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0.
Be it resolved, the Town Board of the Town of Poughkeepsie does hereby authorize the town clerk to advertise in substantially the form annexed for bids for mowing of town parks with athletic facilities, town buildings, maintenance of Route 9 and Route 55 medians, and as well as land clearing, vegetation removal, and joint airport landfill, pursuant to the contract specifications to be prepared by the Recreation Department, which will be available on January 19th, 2018, at the office of the town clerk, with a mandatory pre-bid meeting to be held at 9 a.m. on February 1st, and a bid opening on February 12th, 2018, at 11 a.m. at the Town Hall, Town of Poughkeepsie, 1 over Rocker Road, Poughkeepsie, New York, and be further resolved that the right to accept or reject all bids in whole or part is hereby reserved, and be further resolved that contracting for these services is part of the ongoing administration and management of the Town of Poughkeepsie and the joint landfill, and it is a type 2 action required under SEQR requiring no environmental review. So moved.
Second.
Motion second. Any questions on that one?
Yeah, I just want to point out to people that the joint airport landfill, while we're doing the bidding out for this, we're not actually paying for this.
Correct. Well, we're paying a small piece, our town piece.
We're paying our town piece, right?
We just figured we might be getting a better price because that only gets mowed, I think, once a month. So the fact that we have a landscaper doing ours to add this to it, like a lot of the other ones could be broken out into different pieces, this can also be broken out.
Yeah, and this is a better way of handling our mowing, because this way too, the soccer fields will hopefully be getting more attention that they deserve and mowed on a more regular basis, because we were having all the town parks mowed by one person, by one company that was doing them, and it's a lot. So this way, they're hoping that the athletic fields get the attention they deserve.
Yeah, and he broke that down. The town parks are the ones without the fields, the athletics are the ones with the fields, but
Right.
certain times of the year, they need more care during their season.
Right.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0. Be it resolved, the Town Board of Town of Poughkeepsie is hereby authorized the supervisor to retain Gary S. Bowich Esquire, Bowich of Coffee, LLC, Albany, New York, at the hourly rate of $200 per hour, plus reasonable disbursements to provide legal advice jointly to the town, County Dutchess, and the City of Poughkeepsie, and to the town as it may separately request regarding the evaluation and remediation of environmental issues at the former Schatz property on Fairview Avenue at a cost to the town not to exceed $10,000 without further board authorization. So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any questions on that one? The $10,000 is just a small cap, so we just know that we don't anticipate, we'll reevaluate after the meeting next week so we know where we're going with this and where we stand. So this is just the first step, as I stated earlier.
And are the legal fees actually going to be shared amongst the
Yes.
three? Okay, yeah.
Yeah, and there's certain ones that everybody has a certain piece of the pie what we're interested in, so we may end up breaking them out in a different avenue as we go along with this process. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0.
Number 8, be resolved that for 2018, the Town Board of the Town of Poughkeepsie does hereby find that it is in the best interest of the town to reappoint Wallace & Wallace LLP pursuant to Section 20, Section 2, Section B of the town law to act as attorney for the town without solicitation of alternate proposals, and it does so appoint it to provide services for code enforcement advice and litigation in the Town of Poughkeepsie, town courts regarding zoning, noise control, animal control, building code control, and violations, parking violations, and vehicle and traffic enforcement at the rate of $155 per hour, subject to an annual maximum cap of $60,000 from the legal department budget line, with any surplus reverting to general fund at the end of the year 2018, together with zoning board and planning board pass-through funded services at the rate of $165 per hour for partners of councils and senior associate attorneys, $155 per hour for associates, and $80 per hour for paralegals, and zoning and planning board matters at those rates subject to a shared cap of $65,000 per year. So moved.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any questions on this one?
I'd just like to enter for the record that Wallace & Wallace LLP made several political donations during the last campaign cycle. In the last campaign cycle, they made $750 of donations to the committee to elect Jay Baisley to supervisor, and they made $2,250 donations over the course of the cycle to the Town of Poughkeepsie Republican Committee.
And just to let you know, as far as the zoning, noise control, animal control, building code violations, parking violations, that has saved us a fortune. As far as goes, it used to be all covered by police officers. And as far as zoning and the planning goes, that is at the advisement of the zoning and planning chairs, because it's their right to pick who they want as their attorney. So those two are under the recommendation. All we have is the right to hire them as a contractor. It's their place, it's their attorneys, they have the right to recommend them. That's why they were not appointed last meeting, and Mr. Chally, who was here, walked up and asked why, and I said, because I have not asked you who you would prefer, and he was very happy with who he had. He was afraid that they were going to lose him, and that's who he wanted at that time.
Okay.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Motion passes 5-2.
Nine, be it resolved that the Town Board of the Town of Poughkeepsie does hereby find that it is in the best interest of the town to authorize the supervisor to sign a labor and employment legal services letter agreement for the year 2018 between the Town of Poughkeepsie and David R. Weiss, Esquire, of the law firm of Mackey, Butts, and Wise, without solicitation of alternative proposals, and does hereby authorize the execution of said agreement, a copy of which is attached hereto. So moved.
Good.
Motion and second. Any questions on this one?
I'd like to enter into the record that in the last campaign cycle, Mackey, Butts, and Wise made donations in the amount of $1,000 to the committee to elect Jay Baisley supervisor and $400 to the Town of Poughkeepsie Republican Committee.
And again, as I said, this is a skilled labor, and being that we have the police department's budget coming up, their contract coming up, he has negotiated the last time, maybe the time before that also, and just to have that skill set, I think is definitely where it shouldn't be put out for bid. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Motion passes 5-2.
Resolution number 10, be it resolved that the Town Board of the Town of Poughkeepsie does hereby declare the town to have equipment to be surplus and does hereby authorize the sale of those surplus items and such other items as may be specifically designated as surplus and authorized to be sold by the supervisor or his designee at an online web auction conducted by Absolute Auction Center, 45 South Avenue, Pleasant Valley, New York, at their standard rates, provided that a complete record of the equipment at the result of the auction be maintained. So moved.
Second.
Motion second. This is one town vehicle, and it's 13 impounded vehicles we had, and if we come up with anything else before the auction starts, we'll add it to the list and put it on there, but as of now, it looks like that's what we have. It's just a matter of cleaning house and getting rid of some of these vehicles that have been sitting around. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0.
Be resolved, Town Board, Town of Poughkeepsie is hereby reappoint the following individuals to the Town of Poughkeepsie Plumbing Board of Examiners for 3-year terms from January 1st, 2018 to December 31st, 2020, to wit, Ron Diaz, Richard Harris, Kevin Etz, and Peter Sotero. So moved.
Second?
Motion second. And they all agreed, is Ron available to keep doing this?
Yeah, I've checked with Pete, and I know Richard Harris and Kevin
I
Edson.
knew those two, Ron was the only one I had a question on,
Oh, okay.
because I know he's taking on a lot. I don't know if he's available anymore to do it.
Last time I talked to him, he was interested. If
Okay.
you want to pull him out, we could put him on the next time, and I'll go and talk to him.
Yeah, because I know he's been tied up with going to different areas, yeah.
Okay, well, I'll make a motion then that we remove Ron Etz.
No, Ron,
Sorry, wrong one.
Well, Ann, why don't we just leave them on, and we could always just have somebody fill the unexpired term.
That's true, he could turn in a letter of
Right,
resignation.
easier
if
that
he's- You know, that would be easier that way.
Probably easier that way, yeah.
Okay,
I know he said he took on a lot of things right out of state now, so.
You're approving it whether he wants to
Right,
or not.
yeah.
You know, he has 30 days to file an approval.
All right,
oh, that's true.
that works.
Okay, let's do that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0.
Resolution 12, be it resolved that the Town Board of the Town of Poughkeepsie does hereby appoint Jeffrey Ranahan to the Tri-Municipal Sewer Commission for the years 2018 and 2019. So moved.
Second.
We motion and a second. Any questions on this one? The reason that we usually appoint the first ward councilman is this sewer district basically affects only the first ward. It covers all the first ward. It covers basically from the Galleria Mall down and involves the village of Wappingers Falls and the town of Wappingers. The village of Wappingers and the town of Poughkeepsie are the two sitting bodies, and the town of Wappingers is the biggest tenant. So we usually appoint the first ward councilman to hold that spot, as well as myself. There's 2 board members from the town, 2 board members from the village, and then the town of Wappingers does not have a seat. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. We've come to the end of our agenda. We make a motion to open the floor for public comment on any item.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Does anybody like to say, Mr. Armstrong?
Couple of items. 2 meetings ago, or about a month ago, I brought up the question that the sound on the television for these meetings has not been available, only the video section. And the fellow in the back come back and said it's now working. Well, it wasn't working, and it wasn't working with the last meeting that you had.
Again?
I don't know what the problem is, but, you know,
He's here, I'll ask him again, because I thought it was up and running.
it wasn't at the last meeting that you had anyway. The other thing I have, the last few days, there's been a surveyor on Kerr Road, right in the beginning off of Spring Road. And he's hung ribbons in the trees on, between Kerr Road and Olive Garden. And there's that stretch of open land in there that years ago there was a problem with the guy bringing in the fill, as I remember, and we did it illegally, and the fill didn't get removed, or whether he paid a fine. I don't know the details on that. But I'm curious if we know why there was a surveyor. He surveyed, or at least has hung pink ribbons up until just, they were all on the left-hand side between Kerr and Olive Garden, up until the first house. Then one is on the other side of the road just before Ronnie Lane with a pink ribbon. I don't know if he's done or not, and I don't know if anyone's aware of what he's doing, or, you know, I'm thinking something's up with either those trees that are hanging and the town wants to find out what ones they can knock down, because that has been a problem lately, or is the land being surveyed again with the possibility of trying to get that operational. We stopped it, if I'm not mistaken, a while back because the roads were going to come on to Kerr Road, which is just a one-way in and one-way out street. And I don't know whether other legal matters were involved, but not sure if it's something you want to look into, Mr. Carlos. That's your area. You might want to see what the heck's going on. Maybe one of your groups know about it. I don't know.
Nobody as of now has been in the CIAs in reference to that property. Somebody came in earlier last year looking at a piece of property between Olive Garden and the BMW dealership.
Yeah,
So I don't know if they were just measuring that out to
I
sell
don't
it.
remember what the name on the truck was, but it was a red pickup truck with panels on it, so I couldn't catch the name. It was small, and every time I went by, I forgot to stop and really look at it, but something's up. Somebody just doesn't bring in an official surveyor to,
Yeah, they might be selling it, yeah. I'll see if we
whatever.
find out. I'll ask again downstairs.
all right, thank you.
Anybody else? Doreen?
So in the latest news section of the town website, I see that there was a announcement that planning board meetings are now going to start at 5 p.m. Now, I don't know why that is, but you talk about curtailing access to the public for meetings. I mean, 5 p.m., currently they start at 6 o'clock. That's even a little early for some people. And now it's 5 p.m.? What kind of openness and transparency is that? How do they expect people to get there? You know, if you work, I mean, you know, even if you have kids and you pick them up from after-school activities, and, you know, some people may say, well, you know, you can view it on, you know, on television, but what if there's a public hearing, something that's affecting your neighborhood? I mean, 5 o'clock is just way too early. And they started at 6, and for most of 2017, I checked, it's not like, gee, we had to start at 6, we have to start earlier because we were getting out at 11 o'clock. Well, that's not the case. I think the majority of them, they were out of there before 9 p.m. And, everybody's, been in meetings in here over the years where you have the occasional meeting that may go, it seems like forever. But, 5 o'clock, that's ridiculous. So, do you know why they're changing this?
No, I'll ask them. I have no idea why.
Okay, and I suppose that's something that is up to the planning board?
I would think so, but I'm going to look into it, Doreen. You're the first one that told me that.
Well,
Yeah.
if that's the case, like I said, that's just really limiting public participation and access, and I really find that totally unacceptable. Like I said, especially when there's public hearings. If there's something in your neighborhood, I mean, you know how tough it is sometimes to make it to 7 o'clock meetings. I think most of the people on the board, with the exception maybe of the new people, have, maybe been late or absent or something, and it's just, 5 o'clock is just, like I said,
I'll look into it for you.
unacceptable. Thank you.
Anybody else? Nobody else? Make a motion to adjourn?
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Everybody have a good night.